So, lads, Isaiah Thomas. This is a crazy, crazy story that I'm not quite sure has a happy ending. So, this is a video that I'm going to explain what's kind of overall happening in the situation with Isaiah Thomas and what I believe is going to be the outcome of it. And just a heads up, this is just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. And I really want to put this out there. I hope I am completely wrong with everything that is my opinion. I hope everything that I say in this video is completely wrong. I hope it's all completely wrong. So, Isaiah Thomas. For the Boston Celtics was exceptional, especially in that 1 year in 2016-2017. He had a rough year or so after that. He ended up playing through a really bad hip injury and playing for the Boston Celtics in those playoffs. Just in terms of just pure emotion, like him in that 2017 season, he's a legend. He is a legend amongst Boston Celtics fans. There's no question about it. And I would love it if the Boston Celtics just brought him back. He deserves that much. Even if he's not going to play that much, he deserves that. But I don't know how much he's going to be in, like he wants to be in the league just to make up numbers. But at the same time, I really kind of do hope for that. But recently enough, we all saw what ended up happening in that pro-am game. Isaiah Thomas dropped 81 points in a pro-am game. And the whole world went crazy. But let's just bring this back down to earth. It's a pro-am game. And Isaiah Thomas scoring 81 points. I don't believe it means much. I really don't. Because I personally believe Isaiah Thomas can still score at the NBA level. I still think he can. I still think if he was a starting point guard on an NBA team, he would have multiple 30-point games a season. He's not good enough anymore to average 30, but he would have multiple 30-point games every season. And then obviously we've seen the emotional posts about Isaiah Thomas, and like it's a horrible situation because I don't think anyone has I don't think there's anyone that doesn't want to see Isaiah Thomas back in the league. And the problem is that basketball teams, it's very rare they will hire someone. They will sign someone who they're not sure is going to be a plus on the floor, who's not going to be able to play a specific role and do really well. And I'm not quite sure if there is any team where he fits right now. Because the weird thing is that I hope Isaiah Thomas comes back in the league, but this should not be a reason he's back in the league. Someone dropping 81 points should not be a reason someone's back in the league. If that was a reason, like Jimmer Fredette has scored 70 points at a much higher standard than this pickup game, and he's not playing back in the NBA. But Isaiah Thomas is better than Jimmer. Let's just say it like it is. And it says here the Lakers have considered signing Isaiah Thomas. No, if the Lakers wanted him, the Lakers would have signed him. If the Lakers wanted Isaiah Thomas, the Isaiah Thomas would be on the Los Angeles Lakers right now. The problem is, I don't think the problem is necessarily the NBA has given up on him. The problem is that since the 2016-2017 season, Isaiah Thomas has shot over 40% once, and that was less than 41%. Since the 2016-2017 season, he has not shot over 41% from the field. Although he did shoot 41% from three for Washington in 40 games, which is not terrible. It showed that he still can kind of compete on the offensive end of the floor. He still can compete. But if you're looking at his field goal percentage, in Boston, he shot 46% from the field. Although he did shoot lower percentage from three, he did shoot a lot better percentage from the field. As well as that, he was more athletic back then, and he was a better defender. Yes, he was arguably the worst defensive player in the NBA, but still a better defender. And the thing is that one season in Boston was incredible. But I think that was a situation where everything went right for him. And for that reason, 4 years on, people still have hope that he can recapture the form that he had 4 years ago. And even without the injuries, I'm not sure of that. That Boston Celtics roster was constructed for Isaiah Thomas to shoot the ball basically every possession. They had Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Al Horford, rookie Jaylen Brown, and then obviously they had like Terry Rozier, a couple of other players. They had a roster in that year, in 2016-2017, that had not one player except for Isaiah Thomas that could create their own shot. So Isaiah Thomas was shooting the ball a hell of a lot more than he ever did in his career and ever would again. And he shot better. But still, even in that season, he was a massive defensive liability. He relied on having one of the best defensive rosters we may have ever seen. Like the Boston Celtics 2016-2017 team, minus Isaiah Thomas, might be up there with the best defensive teams we've ever seen. That was what was needed to be put around Isaiah Thomas. It was a perfect mix of everything for him to have a great year. And also, the Boston Celtics needed someone like him. It worked both ways. That team was the 1 seed because of Isaiah Thomas and the other. Isaiah Thomas was a big reason why he was the 1 seed, but that team was also a big reason why Isaiah Thomas succeeded. It was a match made in heaven. Problem was, he goes to Cleveland and he kind of struggles. Then he goes to Los Angeles. Look, he struggled. He shot 38% in Los Angeles, 36% in Cleveland. He struggled. And then he's never really found his footing in the league since. And you might be looking like he averaged 15.6 points per game for the Lakers off the bench. You're thinking, how has he not been able to get onto an NBA roster? Because people are just looking at box scores. First of all, he's an inefficient scorer right now. He's not shooting the ball well enough to be an efficient scorer. And the big problem with Isaiah Thomas is, one, he no longer is good enough offensively to counteract how bad he is defensively. He used to be at a good enough level offensively that he could counteract how bad he was in the defensive end. And for everyone who's saying, oh, NBA players don't play defense, trust me, they do. Trust me, they do. It is just the offensive guys are so talented that it looks, and they're also not allowed to make too much contact, that it looks like they don't play defense. There's a reason why they don't fight over screens anymore at the NBA level. Because literally it's pass, wide open shooter, bang, corner three. Like, there's a reason why the defense has changed. And maybe it's a little bit different, the pace slows down, but in the regular season, yeah, defense still matters quite a lot. But with Isaiah Thomas, he needs to be in a situation. He's no longer good enough even to come off the bench in that Jamal Crawford role, in that in that Lou Williams role, in that Jordan Clarkson role, where he just comes onto the floor and chucks up shots. He's no longer an elite level player at that. And that is the only role that I can see him playing in the NBA. Where the kind of role he played when he first got to Boston. That's the only role that Isaiah Thomas... That was the role that he most likely would have played his entire career if the Celtics didn't build basically a perfect roster around him. The Celtics built that perfect roster, and so he had a couple of good seasons as a starter. But that would have been the role he would have played in most of his career. But the problem is that he's no longer capable of scoring enough points to be worth it. Like, he's more than likely going to, if he does make an NBA roster, be an inefficient scorer who brings nothing else to the floor except scoring. And he's not even incredible at that anymore. And that's the problem. Is Isaiah Thomas a better basketball player than someone like a Jared Dudley? Of course he is. Of course he is. But that's fit matters. Isaiah Thomas has also proven in Cleveland, not necessarily in Cleveland, he's proven over the last couple of years that he really isn't cool with being the last guy off the bench. And like, there's a lot to be said for a Jared Dudley role, being the 14th, 15th man, knowing you might play only 2 of every 4 games, but still being ready when your number is called, being ready to play your ass off, being ready to hit shots. And that is one of the most difficult roles mentally to play in the NBA, because most of these NBA players are used to being the best player their whole lives growing up. And it's a role that I'm not sure Isaiah Thomas can do. Whether Isaiah Thomas makes the NBA or not is not because the NBA have given up on him. It is not because fans have given up on him. Whether he makes it back in or not is there a situation where he could be useful? If this is one, I'll give one hypothetical situation where Isaiah Thomas can be a very, very useful player. Still to this day. I still think there are better guys at this role, but still to this day. If there is a rough riding team, like if there is like a team of rough riders, if there's a team a little bit like what the Clippers were, but with less offense. If you've got a whole bunch of tough defensive players, physically strong players that play at the defensive end and are in need of someone to create and of no shot creator off the bench. And Isaiah Thomas can play that role. But I think there are better players for that role than IT. And that is a very, very niche role that there may be 4 teams in the NBA that might need a player like that. And I don't believe he's in the top 4 players in the NBA at playing that role. If you get what I mean. I think he's too poor defensively to go to a contender right now. And he's also too old to go to a young team. He's going to be taking shots. Because he needs shots. Without Isaiah Thomas having the ball in his hand and getting up shots, he's not an effective player. And I don't think he's effective enough on a championship team. As well as the fact that I don't believe that he helps a young team. Because he takes the ball out of the hands of their younger players. And he's just going to take a bunch of shots. So, do I see Isaiah Thomas making it back into the NBA? I do not see a situation opening up where he is a super effective player. That's all I'm going to say. But I hope I'm wrong. I want nothing more than to be wrong, because how can you not like what Isaiah Thomas did in Boston? How can you not like the fact that the guy's been in and out of the league and he's still doing everything he can to get back into the league? You want to know what I would like to see? I would love to see Isaiah Thomas going over to EuroLeague and playing the Mike James role and just shooting a bunch of shots and scoring, because he can still score. Like, if Isaiah Thomas was a starting point guard and given 20 shots a game, he'd average 22 points a game in the NBA right now. The team would suck, by the way. If any team where Isaiah Thomas is averaging 20 points a game probably sucks, but he could. He's still a good enough scorer that he could do that. And I really want to see him. I really would like to see him going to Europe, playing somewhere. Or, I'm not going to say China, but there are a lot of places in the world. Like, Isaiah Thomas is still one of the best basketball players in the world. He's still one of the best scorers in the world. There are so many places in the world where he can end his career on top as one of the best players in a lot of leagues outside the NBA. The problem is that it's looking like he's going to just keep trying to do whatever he can to make an NBA team and playing most of his competitive basketball in proam games. So it is what it is. It's his choice. That's the way he wants to go about it. And by looks of things, his whole thing is he only wants to go back to the NBA. But I would love to see. I think there's almost no chance of Isaiah Thomas finishing out his career on a high. I think if he keeps going the way he is, he's going to be signed on a couple of short-term contracts, shoot inefficiently for a couple of games, and then be waived. I don't see there being a situation where he's in the NBA long-term. My biggest hope for Isaiah Thomas is that he goes to a slightly lesser league than the NBA and becomes one of the best scorers in that league, one of the best players in that league, and ends his career on a high. Because I'm not sure that it ends well if things are going the way it is. Not only am I not sure, if you were to ask me, do I think he's going to end up ever playing the NBA again? I think he gets minutes. Or I think he makes our roster. I think there's no question about it. He makes an NBA roster at some stage. He will play another NBA game. But I think it's going to be more and more of him being signed of almost like a Jimmer Fredette. Him being signed for 10 days here, 10 days there, never being picked up. And if he does get picked up, thrown onto the end of the bench for half a season, then waived. I think that's the future. And I sure hope I'm wrong. So anyway, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.